All right, ma'am. We have got a show for you today. This is Nerdside Champs. I am Dan. Next to me is Tim. Down below us is Jonathan from
Hey.
Comic Book Cinema. And this is Nerdside Champs again. We got our fiddle faddle ready. We are going to be talking
Fiddle faddle.
Yeah, Daredevil, Born Again, episodes 5 and 6. And also, we're going to wrap this up with Reacher Said Nothing. The Reacher finale was just dropped today. Before we're all done, we got all kinds of comments. We got all kinds of ground to cover. We got an amazing guest. The Bone Bridger may be stopping in later. He is in baby watching holding patterns right now. But without further ado, before we get into the comments, I have to go in. It's been 4 weeks now of watching Daredevil Born Again. If you had episode 6 in the office pool bingo card for when you were going to get current Daredevil back in the costume, you won the pool. You get the money. But also for 4 weeks, my friend Tim right there has been telling me that the major protagonist, the major antagonist of this series is Muse. Muse is the big antagonist. He's going to be the big bad. Why haven't they got to the big bad yet? After these 2 episodes, we have learned that he is definitely not the big bad of the whole season, but we do.
He was barely even a bad. He was barely even a bad. You know what I mean?
But listen,
he was like the lowest of low bad.
We're going to reveal this to you, Jonathan, and we're going to get your input on which way to go. Me and Tim have a theory on who the actual big bad of the season is. And we've got some concept out. We want to help Marvel out. So without further ado, we've gotten the origin story of our major villain already, if you weren't paying attention. So this is our number 1 option, the Caramel Crusader. Or if you don't like that, Sweet Justice. Or I think this one's more on the nose. This is what we need. The Fiddle Faddle hero.
I like that one.
You know,
that's a good one.
Yeah. All good villains see themselves as the hero.
Right.
And if you thought that was just wasted time treading water 2 weeks ago, no. That was the origin story of our true villain, the Fiddle Faddle hero versus Daredevil. So which one did you like, Jonathan? Which one do you think?
For the record, I want it out there, Dan. I want it out there. This was not like my vision. All I did was tell an AI generator to make a fiddle faddle superhero, and this is what popped out the other end. Okay, so I did not have anything to do with this. So I'm just letting that be known. So anyway, go ahead, John.
What's the question?
Which option do you think is the best option for our fiddle faddle themed nemesis for Daredevil?
Yeah. Definitely the third. I mean, the corn's close. It's close second place. But I think we should go.
I don't think AI knew what caramel corn was. It was just caramel and corn.
Yeah.
Now, years of corn.
I think it said something about sweet corn there.
Yeah. In the spirit of full disclosure, I was unable to procure Fiddle Faddle. My Fiddle Faddle does have a secret identity. It's actually Cracker Jack. I just have Cracker Jack. But
I have OG Fiddle Faddle. There's the copyright right there. Okay.
I have a prize in the bag though, Tim. So there we go. Moving right along.
Guys about Crunch and Munch. We got Crunch and Munch down south, but apparently, apparently it's a thing here as well.
Yeah, I think it's there used to be Crunch and Munch up here. I couldn't find that either, and I think it's kind of like Hardee's or Carl's Jr. It's the same stuff.
Depends on where you are,
Yeah, it depends on where you are, but it's the same thing. So
you guys were talking about how inexpensive Fiddle Faddle is. Well, Crunch and Munch is the good stuff. It's like $4 a box.
Oh, geez,
it's high end.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, Cracker Jack is like $2.50 a bag at the grocery store. Of course, if you buy it at a baseball game, it's opening day. It's probably $8 or something like that. What?
Fiddle Faddle.
$1.30.
At $1.30 a box, ladies and gentlemen. So what you need to decide as a society is if somebody should go to jail for stealing 7 boxes of Fiddle Faddle that were $1.30. The end.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Well, and the thing is, though, if it's only $1.30, why do you have to steal it? Why you can't come up with $1.30 for your box
Yeah,
of
I know,
caramel
man.
corn?
Steal the change for the caramel corn. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway,
Thug Dog, and I think we might have our first dispute already. Here we go. Thug Dog. He made episode 5 of Daredevil was just a generic bank robbery episode. It did nothing to move the plot of the season forward.
I disagree.
Jonathan, where's your reaction to that?
I think that, you're hearing that narrative a lot. A lot of people are saying it was just a filler episode. Well, what about, I forget his name, the guy that approached Daredevil in his office towards the end of that episode, or the beginning of episode 6? He was the one that was involved with the bank robbery. I think Marco, I can't remember his name. But, yeah. I mean, it's a direct tie to the show. It's also a direct tie to Daredevil making that decision that I am Daredevil. Like, he really, in my mind, made that decision when he put that mask on, ran after old dude, and snapped his leg in half. That to me, so I mean, I keep hearing that narrative that it was just a filler episode. It was kind of in a bubble. Personally, I disagree. I think that it was very essential to the story and to the character, even though ultimately, overall, I don't like what they have decided to do, which is essentially take these characters, change them for a little bit for some reason, and then it's not even a surprise, really. Like, it's not even something that's going to catch the audience off guard, but we all know at the end of the day, they're going to go back to being Daredevil and Kingpin. So I think that direction for me is a little odd, but
it is the name of the show, Daredevil Born Again. I mean, it's in the title.
Right. But I'm just not a fan of it. It doesn't. Yeah. And I guess I understand as far as Kingpin goes, because he got shot in the face by Echo and he needed time to recover, and maybe the same person didn't come out of that recovery process. But with Matt, it just, and I also understand that they use the Foggy thing to make him take that different path, but I'm just not a fan of that aspect of the show. Not to rant too much. Sorry.
Tim, what was your take on episode 5 being a bottle episode and all of that?
I would look. Episode 5 is one of those episodes in a series that we get occasionally where you can drop it anywhere and it would not help or hurt. And that is the definition to me of a filler episode. I do feel like this kind of like Die Hard-esque episode where he was going up against just these generic goons. I get that there were two things that happened that I think were somewhat important. The first thing is that he met Kamala's dad, which was a whole other discussion. I don't know that any of us really want Ms. Marvel to be intertwined in this continuity. And then it is now. And then
the girl sign out. He's getting all wound up.
And then after that, we did have the whole thing where he essentially decided he was going to become Daredevil again. So my question to Jonathan, who said that that's why this was kind of a monumental moment in the series. Why did we need this episode to do that? There was plenty of other stuff that this what we got into in episode 6 in my
sure
view, you could have skipped from 4 to 6 and the same thing would have happened. So that's kind of,
I think that's the problem, Tim. Like, this show. Now, here's something else. Some people are comparing this to the first 3 seasons of Daredevil. Oh, no. This is nowhere near that quality level. Those shows, to me, still are in my top 3. They're excellent programming. But this show, it's a little better than most of the Disney Plus MCU stuff, but it's nowhere near the OG Daredevil.
It still feels to me, and this episode was kind of the encapsulation of it, how it feels like the series was taken apart and put back together, and that's kind of how it feels. It feels like they had their series the way that they wanted it. They completely disassembled it because it wasn't working. They put it back together using some of the same parts. and something like this was just kind of thrown in there, and it just doesn't feel like it fit anywhere. And look, I love Die Hard, you know what I mean? I love Under Siege. I love when there's just one guy that nobody knows that he's gonna, kill everybody and save the day. I love those stories, but in my mind, this is one episode of 8, and it did absolutely nothing. It did absolutely nothing with the Kingpin story. It did absolutely nothing with the Muse story. It did absolutely nothing with any of the other stories. So it was kind of just wasted time for me because I've seen Die Hard before.
Yeah, it's getting draggy though. I will admit that. Like the show itself is just getting a little like it seems like they're really trying to stretch a lot of this crap out.
Here's my take. I'm going to go against the grain on this. I am going to agree with Thug Dog in fact, but not an implied spirit. I think his tone matches your tone, but I'm going to say, no, it did not advance the plot. It wasn't tied into the rest of the plot, but Tim is wrong in saying that it did nothing. What it did do is give us the first episode of Daredevil Born Again that it was not as dull as watching paint dry.
I mean, you're completely honest. That's true, Dan. Completely.
Yeah. So you guys, just a question, because we haven't really discussed this yet amongst each other, but you guys overall, what are you thinking? Like, are you really not liking the show so far? You think it's boring?
I wouldn't say boring.
A lot of credit. Like waiting, the performances are strong. The acting is good, but it's getting really dull. Nothing is happening. Like nothing is happening.
Well, I'm kind of on two sides when it comes to that. I appreciate the drama and, like you're saying, the acting and the performances that we're getting from Vincent D'Onofrio, from Charlie Cox. But at the same time, I'm starting to feel the same way, Dan. Like, okay, when are we going to get a little bit more? I mean, we've gotten the first episode also, that little fight sequence between Bullseye and Daredevil was a little odd and a little off.
It was the CG when the wide shots looked like cartoons. They were.
Yeah. They were. I mean, it was essentially PlayStation maybe 3 graphics on that, and I give them credit for this. When they use CG, at the very least, they did it when there was low lighting, which Disney Plus has not been doing. At least there was low lighting to kind of cover up a little bit of that. But my overall feelings as of right now on the series are that it's better than most Disney Plus stuff, but that's a very low bar. That's kind of where I stand on it. I'm not going to tell you that I don't appreciate the acting talents of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio at moments, because they're both fantastic actors. They both are. I think that they were thrust into a pretty bad situation, and they're making the most of what they can. But it looks like a series that was not intended to be this story from the beginning.
Right.
That's the way it looks to me.
I'm getting those vibes too, and it really makes me wonder what the original draft of this show would have been like, to be so bad that Kevin Feige came in and shut that crap down.
Yeah. Well, no, but here's the thing, and this is the theory we've been kicking around while we talked about this. Yes, he changed it, but the narrative has been that he shut it down, he threw it out, and they started over. Watching the series, you realize, no, that's not what happened. They shot a whole first episode with Foggy and Karen in it, tacked that on to the beginning, shot a few extra scenes with the Punisher here and there, and put it in a blender with the crap show they had already made. And that's why it all feels stitched together. They didn't throw that stuff out. It's still, or not all of it. We've lost Jonathan.
Okay. Oh, he's down there. Is he? Oh, he had to step away. Yeah, he's down. I see he's back, but he's not. He might be having difficulties.
He had to go to the bathroom, maybe. I don't know. But
okay, yeah.
Whatever the case may be, I mean, I think that we can agree in principle, Dan, that episode 5 was better than a lot of what we've seen, but that's not really
Yeah,
that's not saying much.
I'm a big fan of episodic. Jonathan's back. Okay, I'm actually a big fan of episodic, non-serialized television because it's what I grew up on. I'm older than you guys, but I mean, you guys also remember things like the A-Team and the Incredible Hulk original series. Like,
and that's
every
I was
week
going to mention
an adventure. What's that?
I was going to mention that there was an episode of the A-Team that was just like this. There was an episode of Highlander that was just like this. There was an episode of a lot of that stuff in the 90s that was, you go to the bank, something happens, they don't know who's there. They end up all dying and the guy saves the day. And it's a very, very generic 90s action TV series episode. They did it all the time. I think Baywatch even had an episode like that, I think. So I mean, it's like,
Baywatch also had an episode where the WCW wrestlers invaded the beach. If you remember.
Yeah, 18 had one with
we
Paul
need
Coker.
to review that episode, Dan. We definitely need to review that episode at some point.
Call me. But I'm totally down for that.
But that might be why I really enjoyed it. One thing I will say about that episode is Daredevil is getting really loose with Matt Murdock just going around town beating the crap out of people because he took out 2 of that crew with, I don't know why he bothered putting on a mask to take on the last guy. You already took down 2 guys that you didn't kill that could be like the blind lawyer kicked my butt. Like, he savaged me. I don't know what's going on with the guy on the stairwell can attest that Matt Murdock is not your average blind lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you got 2 cops and that guy running around and he's still wearing the suit. I think the last guy knew who it was who beat him up.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to piece together because they leave it really ambiguous. And they did it at the end of episode 6 as well with Muse.
Yeah.
You think that with what happened and with what we saw, that these people probably died, but we learned in episode 2 or 3 that they didn't. So
yeah.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, are all these people that he's actually just beating the snot out of, are they living? Because if a lot of these people are living, it's kind of weird that some of them are alive after what they've been through.
Beginning with Bullseye getting thrown off a building and leading up to this guy on the stairwell, everybody in this series has Wolverine level healing factor.
Yeah. And Muse was the same. I mean, Muse looked like he looked like his face was completely crushed in, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't really believe he's dead right now because of a couple of things, but
Jon Snow knows nothing. Rest assured, when Fiddle Faddle Hero debuts as the true antagonist of the series, we will all have our Fiddle Faddle and we will be happy. So don't worry that we haven't had it in these episodes. So the entire purpose of episode 5 is to protect Matt to Kamala. That's Barry Allen is slow. I don't think so. I looked at this continuity hit as it's the kind of continuity I actually enjoy, where you can get something out of it if you know what it is, and if you don't know what it is, like if you had never seen Miss Marvel, which is most everybody, right? Yeah, you would never know that.
According to the ratings,
you would just know that the assistant manager of the bank is this weird, funny dude. You wouldn't really. You might piece together by the end that he's the dad because they kind of hint at it. But
he did lift out or put out a pop figure of Miss Marvel. So, I mean,
yeah, his custom made, like you knew that he was a fan of Miss Marvel and that he had a daughter. You could piece that together if you'd never seen the show and had no idea who Miss Marvel was. But I don't think it could. If you'd never seen Miss Marvel, you could enjoy this episode. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah. He
and
Miss Marvel and Kamala like 5 different times. I mean, he was like, New Jersey's own Miss Marvel. Have you ever heard of her?
Yeah.
So I feel like even somebody who doesn't know who Miss Marvel is would watch this and be like, okay, they must be talking about another Marvel superhero.
Yeah. I absolutely hate that they introduced her too. She doesn't really fit with the tone of these characters. That's the main thing that I don't like. She doesn't really fit with the tone of the Netflix characters. So having her interweave with them is not really something that I'm excited about.
They've already interweaved with She-Hulk. They've already interweaved with Echo, Hawkeye.
I get it, man. And I'm not saying I'm a fan of any of that stuff either, as you know. But I'm definitely. If you're gonna put Ms. Marvel somewhere, I just don't think she belongs here. I mean, you know, she people didn't even like seeing her with Captain Marvel and Photon. So who the heck knows? But I feel like it feels very forced.
I think that was more Captain Marvel than her. That's probably one of the most hated heroes in all of Marvel is Carol Danvers right there, you know?
Yeah.
I will agree with you though, Tim. Yeah, it felt very, very forced. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was kind of one of those things like, was it really necessary that her father be, and especially like they're not in New Jersey, right? So why is he commuting for work to go? I think
a lot of people that work in Manhattan don't live in Manhattan. It's too expensive to work there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to live.
Well, and you know, I could give a little grace if it's just a nod to the characters living somewhere close to each other and just happening to cross. That's fine. But now he's going to go have dinner at their house, and it's very clear they're setting up that she's going to be introduced with these characters at some point. I just think that's silly. I think that Ms. Marvel fits the tone of a lot of other different characters better than she fits these. I was thrilled to see that Iman Vellani was not on the chairs. Okay, I was very excited that she was not on the chairs for Doomsday. But from what I'm being told, those chairs were only partial reveals anyway. So who knows? But you know,
for the record, I really love her as Miss Marvel, but so far she has not
the character of Miss Marvel.
Yeah,
that's it.
So far she has not been in a show or movie that I just loved. Yeah. So I don't think that's her fault, but to be fair, but also I think that we're going to get a whole lot more chairs in the next week or so.
Yeah,
that's what the rumor is.
Marvel, you know, all three of us, and so we're constituting probably at least 20-30% of the viewing audience,
total viewership. Absolutely.
And probably 40% of the Daredevil Born Again audience, just right here. But anyway, I did not hate Miss Marvel. I didn't love it. It was targeted for a different audience for Marvel, and I was fine at the time with them going after niche shows in different markets. But it's starting to get old. You know, they're everything is niche. But the fact that I didn't hate the show probably made it okay for the dad to be there for me. And I don't think it means that we're going to see her interacting with Daredevil. I
don't think
I'm hoping not.
No,
maybe it was just a chance meeting, and that would be great if it was just a chance meeting.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. So let's see. John said Matt is representing the forgotten minority of white male lawyers that are often rejected for loans. Bravo, Disney. So brave. Yeah. So now we have a new trope.
Yeah, that's right. The forgotten group of white male lawyers that just cannot get loans. You know, how we need to have a PBS special for these people. All right. How can they possibly survive? I don't know, Dan. What do you think?
Kind of like a great white buffalo, right?
Didn't we establish that this firm is fairly successful? Like in some of the other episodes, he got this new partner, and they talked about how successful. I mean, I know Matt,
and he's not a popular lawyer, but he's very well renowned as a good lawyer, right? And so
you got to wonder what his credit score is.
Yeah. I don't know what in the world is going on where Matt Murdock, attorney at law, cannot get a loan. I just don't know what in the world.
Disney Plus Marvel trope. Superheroes cannot get loans.
No matter who they are.
Sam, you know.
Well, I thought it was only because Sam was black, but maybe I was wrong about that.
Yeah, maybe not. See, that's the thing. They got the backlash. Everyone's like, oh, they're just Sam can't get a loan because he's black. And they're like, oh, you think that? Watch this.
White lawyer.
White lawyer. Boom. No loan for him either. Boom.
Tony Stark doesn't pay him anything, so
yeah.
It's just silly, man.
Oh, Thug Dog. I just wish it had some obvious connection to Kingpin. Would have brought it all together. I think I think he's talking about the bank robbery. I think that it did have a connection. Whoever he was talking to on the phone, that's the guy from the top of episode 6, right?
Yes, that's the guy that came in Kingpin's office all cocky that we know by the end of the season is going to get got.
Yeah. Maybe when Kingpin loses his
probably by Kingpin. Yeah.
No, what's going to happen? Kingpin's going to lose his cool. He's finally going to kill Adam on accident. He's going to need a new gimp for his cage. And so this guy will be Kingpin's new cage gimp that he comes and visits when he's feeling frustrated about being mayor. He'll eat and talk to him and give him axes to try to have a fight and the whole thing. It'll be great. But yeah, that was the tie-in, I believe. Barry on is slow. Episode 6 was better, but I feel like Muse was wasted and unnecessary. If that's all the Muse we get.
I doubt that's all the Muse we get.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say. I liked episode 5 way better than episode 6. Episode 6 just fell off a cliff for me. Episode 5 was tight, contained. It told a fun story. It was action-packed. Episode 6 was full of stupid characters doing stupid things to advance a stupid plot. Because
the girlfriend was fleshed out a little bit. Matt's new girlfriend. And also, Muse a little bit of an introduction, more of an introduction to Muse. And then ultimately, at the conclusion of the episode, we get the full turn from Matt and Kingpin. I thought 6 was pretty solid, actually.
No, 6 was trash. It was absolute trash. It was trash.
I disagree.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tim.
This series, and in particular, these few episodes that we're talking about here, are a perfect microcosm for the MCU at large. Okay. When you take a look at the whole picture, basically you get a continuity that's completely broken, kind of clinging to what it used to be, going a completely different direction, like a ship without a rudder, doesn't know exactly which way is up. And then occasionally you get something thrown in there that's fun and entertaining, but it does nothing for the story. That's your Deadpool and Wolverine. That's your episode 5 in this series. Yeah. And then you go back to the story and you're like, okay, that helped further the story, but it helped further a bad story.
Yeah.
And so this is just like a perfect microcosm of the MCU at large right here.
I think there's more than just Deadpool versus Wolverine that was stellar.
It's an example. I mean, we're talking about something that has. Listen, you're talking about something.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I personally like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I know that most
that is the worst show ever perpetrated on human beings.
The humor was relatively funny in that.
But anyway, let me just.
There's a lot of projects that are good.
Let me explain why 6 is absolute trash and total garbage.
Well, to you.
To everyone with a thinking brain.
No.
That niece, it is factually contradictory to itself. That girl is either a bald-faced liar because she is not a 4.0 student getting A's in advanced placement courses because she's so stupid that as a 13, 14-year-old, she thinks she's going to wonder the subway system alone by herself looking for a serial killer.
I've done way dumber things when I was 16, 17, 18, 19.
I didn't go hunting serial killers. I mean, she knows she's doing something dangerous, that her superhero uncle got killed.
Well, she's frustrated because she feels like nobody's doing anything about it.
She feels like she's a freaking idiot. She feels like the stupidest character ever inserted into a narrative.
She's 13.
Oh, I'm 13. I'll get to the bottom of this whole thing. This won't be dangerous at all. Yeah. She deserved to die. She can't die.
What 13-year-old do you know that has good judgment in a situation like that, especially after they just lost their dad?
Listen, at 6, I was not that stupid. I was never that stupid in my whole life. My children were never that stupid because they wouldn't have made it past 13. I would have smothered them in their beds.
I think that most of us are lucky to have made it past 13.
World.
And there goes our YouTube post.
I'm sorry to the planet for creating you. I will not inflict the world with this stupidity. My kids were never that dumb. I was never that dumb. I've never known it was that dumb.
It was an idiotic angle. It was a very idiotic angle. And then what happened after that was idiotic. there's nothing more to be said other than the fact that it was completely unnecessary. All they're trying to do is set her up as the new White Tiger. We all know that it's taking a long, boring, idiotic road to get there. This is just like every other Young Avenger that they've laid before us and fed and filled up the trough, just hoping that we're going to lap it up because we're all Marvel lackeys and we'll do whatever we'll eat whatever they put in front of us. That is not correct. Okay. This is the kind of stuff that they've been doing for years that has driven all of us crazy. It's Kate Bishop all over again. It's Riri Williams all over again. We don't need you forcing this stuff on us, okay? We see what you're doing, and you're not as sneaky and as creative as you think.
Now, I will give it this. I was enjoying the episode, every bit of it, until she went into the subway. The whole setup, building up Muse, the blood in the mural, the fact that he's the graffiti artist, that he's screwing with everybody and leaving corpses out now. Fisk using it as an excuse to ratchet up his force against vigilantes. Him setting up a task force to hunt down Muse. But we get this super dumb, like unexcusably dumb angle of her going after Muse. And then we also get Matt decides to be Daredevil again and finds Muse in about 20 minutes. Literally, this is the hugest critique of this show. Who do you think has gotten more screen time in this show? Was it Muse or was it Fiddle Faddle Man? I'm telling you,
so far, Fiddle Faddle.
Fiddle Faddle has gotten more screen time than Muse. And let me tell you right now, I don't really want to see any more Muse. I'm done. Muse is like Kang now. This is like Kang at the end of Quantumania. Muse has already been beaten. He was found. I mean, Matt put on his mask, and 5 minutes later, he was in Muse's secret hideout. That's how easy it was for Daredevil to find Muse. 5 minutes after that, he had beaten the crap out of He
can get a new hideout.
What's that?
He can get a new hideout. I mean, I don't understand. You know, like it's
find him again.
It's a Daredevil. It's a Daredevil villain, right? So
yeah.
You know, Daredevil beat him in their first encounter. He is Daredevil, and he's a master at his craft. So he was able to find Muse relatively quickly, not in 20 minutes like you're saying here. And I don't understand why you're so hung up on a 13-year-old making a bad decision. That just blows my mind. If you could see half the things that I did, when I was 17.
I'll reach out to your mom and find out exactly how many serial killers you went to hunt, John.
Yeah.
I'll reach out and find out. But
how many advanced placement college prep courses were you getting straight A's in?
You know what it is, Dan?
Yeah, what?
You know what it is? The ultimate thing that they're trying to show is, once again, there's a lot of underlying politics in this show, which is one of the reasons I'm not really a huge fan. There's a lot of underlying politics. She is the perfect parallel to a lot of what we have in underlying politics, where passion equals righteousness, and that is not correct. Okay, just because you deeply believe that you can get something done, and there's this movement, you know, where do something, it's better than doing nothing, right? That's not correct. Okay,
I got a question for you, Tim.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Don't just do something. And the ultimate point behind this whole thing is there's a lot of underlying politics behind it. Once again, trying to bring up passion and equate it with righteousness, and that's just not reality. It's just not reality. So
I got a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You guys were fans of Skeleton Crew, right?
I was. Sure.
Yeah, that's a whole different fantastical situation.
Daredevil's also totally not fantastical with the White Tiger and being in the MCU in the same world as Miss Marvel.
We spoke about how the main character was a moron the entire time. Okay, go back and watch our reviews. It's on YouTube.
All the kids went after
we talk about how the main character was a complete and total moron.
Kids get themselves into sticky situations, guys.
This is supposed to have a grounded tone. And again, it is a established serial killer. People are going missing.
Sure, but it's a 13-year-old that doesn't understand the world yet.
What's the end game? Even a 13-year-old, as she never seen a
don't know. They
television,
just want
she
to
never
find the
watched a
killer.
movie. Has she never encountered an adult? What was she going to do when she found the serial killer?
She probably didn't think that far ahead. She was just angry and mad and
And
confused.
stupid. Very, very.
She's passionate,
very
and she
Once
thinks
again,
it equals
I don't know many
righteousness. It's not
13-year-olds
true.
that aren't stupid,
I don't
including
know.
myself when
No.
I was that age.
The writers writing that were stupid. They established that she's smart. Even that conversation in Matt's office was some of the most asinine. This
Book
is a
smart
blind
and
lawyer.
street
What
smart
was-
are two totally different things, my friend.
Now listen, the conversation in his office, like we know he's Daredevil. She doesn't know he's Daredevil. What is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to put his, like, if he was just some regular blind defense attorney, what was he? I thought you cared.
That's what he said. He said, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. What did the idiot girl say? Like, did she learn? Like, she was.
So are you more mad about her going after the serial killer? Or are you more mad about her approaching Matt for help?
Every line she had in the entire episode was like it was written by like I don't know, by like a team of retards. They got the dumbest people they could find. You had to take an IQ test to write your lines and
Dan
act.
is doing.
If
Dan
you got
is doing
over
trying to make
60
sure we don't
on your
get pushed.
IQ test, you couldn't write for her. If you had an IQ over 60, you were like, nope, you can't decide what she does next. You're too smart for this.
I'll agree with you on the fact that it's kind of odd and convenient that she approached Matt as a lawyer. That she obviously doesn't know he's Daredevil, so that part was a little convenient. I can get behind that. But if your biggest hang up is what a dumb decision that a 13-year-old girl made, even if she has straight A's, I can't really get behind that.
Please tell me what the 13-year-old girl's plan was to do when she found the serial killer. How was she going to bring him justice, John? Like, what's the end game? You find him, and then
it's a 13-year-old that didn't think about a plan, Dan.
He's already killed numerous grown men. You know that to be a fact. 2 grown women that were left dead in the street. And you're like, you know what? I'm a 13-year-old girl. I have no special abilities or powers. I'll hunt him down and bring him to justice.
Well, I mean, she probably, she was probably thinking in her head, maybe I can sneak up on this guy and hit him with a crowbar or something along those lines.
Did she? She didn't even have a weapon. She didn't have a ball bat, a hammer.
Well, once again, my argument for that is she's 13, and I think if we're being honest with ourselves, most of us have made really poor decisions at age 13.
I was never that stupid. And now,
all right,
go again.
Not all of us can be as smart as you, Dan.
Again, and see, I'm trying to explain to you how dumb this show is, and you're refusing to understand. In addition to that,
I would say it's dumb. It's definitely, in my opinion, but once again, film and television is very subjective to all of us, right? We're all going to watch. We can all watch the same show and get something very different out of it in our own minds, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's very underwhelming. I'll give you that. It's definitely nowhere near the caliber of those first 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I don't want any more Muse. I'm done with Muse. He found Muse in one evening. It took him 20 minutes tops. It was 20 minutes and that's it was like delivering a Domino's pizza is how I'm Muse. That simple. Daredevil will find a different guy in 20 minutes or your money back, and then he will kick his ass and string him up. And the only reason he maybe got away is because he had to save the girl from bleeding out. That is mind-numbingly stupid. If he was not,
I want everyone to know that when Dan was not on the episode last week, I got through everything I needed to in 30 minutes. I'm just letting everyone know.
Wow. Oh, it's already been 20 minutes.
I'm just letting you know that Muse is toast. Muse is he is nerfed more than Kang ever was. This guy has already been found in 5 minutes and had his ass kicked. If he didn't get picked up by the cops unconscious in his little lair after that ordeal, and he's not in prison in the next episode, that I like, okay, Matt finds him again in another 5 minutes and beats his ass again. This is not, if Matt was chasing him and trying to find him for 8 episodes, then Muse is a character worth caring about.
I think that Muse put up a better fight than Heath Ledger's Joker did in the first encounter he had with Christian Bale's Batman.
Yeah, but he kept Batman Well, no, his first encounter was with Bruce Wayne in the apartment building, and he threw the girlfriend out the window. So he came out pretty good.
No, he wasn't Bruce Wayne. He was Batman when he came out there. He's like
Batman.
Oh yeah, that was Batman. He did pretty good there. Like he almost killed her. So yeah, that came out all right.
Well, that was the only reason he got away. Just like Muse, the only reason he got away was the little.
I don't think he got away. He was already unconscious with his ass thoroughly kicked. So if he got away, that's just dumb.
He got away.
It took 5 minutes to find him. Batman could never figure out what the Joker was doing to the very end. So anyway, yeah. Listen, hey,
Dan obviously doesn't like
in here spitting nonsense. I can't let this stand.
It's not nonsense. I think
Dan has pontificated for at least 15 minutes and mentioned no less than 5 times how Daredevil found Muse in 20 minutes. Daredevil found Muse in 20 minutes. Daredevil found Muse. It is.
Well, you tell me the episode wasn't stupid, Tim.
It was stupid, but yes. I'm just sitting here eating caramel corn and watching you repeat yourself, and it's awesome. So
yeah,
all right. So,
I don't think that. I mean, once again, I'll agree with you that her approaching Matt about that didn't really make any sense. But once again, we're dealing with a 13-year-old that's not going to think or plan through. She ends up being captured, which is convenient for the storyline, but. Ultimately, Daredevil is a master at his craft, and doesn't surprise me that he was able to find Muse so quickly, especially given that they had been investigating that character for a minute. And
Daredevil hasn't. He had no idea it existed until that episode.
Wait a second, Ed. Let me finish talking before you interrupt me again. And then also, I think that their first fight encounter, Muse had a really good. I would say that he held his own pretty well against Daredevil, but.
Yeah. They had that one fight, and now it's over. It's done.
Yeah, but he escaped, so we'll get to see part 2.
God, that is so lame. That is I want to see that about like everybody wanted to see Kang after Ant-Man. That
all right. Let's move on.
Episode 5 was filler, and episode 6 had a great action at the end, but the story seems inconsistent. Marvel just tried too hard on this one. I don't think they tried hard enough. But
I don't think they tried hard at all.
Yeah,
no, I don't think they tried hard at all.
Matt's girlfriend wanted to sit down with Punisher and Daredevil was super cringe. It was.
That was weird. That was weird. I mean,
kudos.
Oh, you know the Punisher, right? You were his lawyer. Oh, you can get me an interview or something. It was weird.
Here's a good props. We went 2 straight episodes with no couples therapy. So that is
Kingpin got his own therapy. Okay, so all right.
Thug Dog. So Hector's niece was injected with what appears to be the gut with the blood vacuum thing for what had to be a few minutes and lives. I don't know. Time always is it slowed down? Is it sped up? How long was it in?
I don't know, man, but
that's what she said.
I would think some serious medical attention is required. I don't know how in the world they're trying to make this work. You know what I mean?
Take her to a hospital. Like he had to perform CPR.
I mean, I understand that, but yeah, I would think that there would be blood gushing everywhere once that thing's pulled out. I mean,
there's have to be a transfusion,
right? I mean, it didn't really. Yeah, that was not really in the realm.
Daredevil
that was not in the realm of reality.
He's going to take her to a bodega. He's going to get her some juice and some fiddle faddle. And she's going to be okay. I would say a cookie, but no, fiddle faddle.
Yeah.
So Hector's niece was injected. Oh yeah, no, that's that.
Oh yeah, you already read that one.
Yeah, on the slow. Adam really charged at Kingpin like he had a chance. If only he had a bow and arrow instead of an axe and was 100 pound 19-year-old girl.
Yeah, then he would have stood a chance against the Kingpin. That's how it works in this world.
But see,
right?
Here's the thing: the Kingpin learned and is no longer using chokeholds. That's not that's not in his repertoire anymore. Because he knows if you're holding them, they can reach and get their weapons and do something to you, So Jon Snow knows nothing. Something that's bugged me from back in the Netflix series days is how everyone that Daredevil fights seems to be a martial arts expert. Random goons that rob banks don't fight like that. I assume he's talking about the fight at the end where he does put on.
They're not random goons though. You know, they're all work for the guy that works for Kingpin. I forget his name. The guy that approached Kingpin in episode 6. Some Italian guy, or not Italian, but Irish guy. But
Irish.
Yeah, they're not just some random goons.
But I mean, here's the thing, right? Not everybody who gets into being a mobster is a martial artist. I think I understand where we're coming from.
But in this world, I mean, you know, you got.
I understand that, but and I understand, and it does make for really cool looking scenes. But you know, I feel like there are cool looking scenes that are. It's almost like he's in John Wick's universe, and everybody that he comes across is a supremely trained top tier assassin, and that's just not.
It would be boring if it was just guys that couldn't fight, right?
Well,
but then it would actually be more realistic if he was beating up goons that couldn't.
Would you rather realistic or entertaining?
It would be okay. It would be okay if every now and again Daredevil got an easy W. You know, it would kind of establish his bona fide.
He never had.
Seasons 1, 2, think about this. Think about this, okay?
Never got an easy W.
The Dark Knight, right? The Dark Knight, the very first scene where he rolls up during the drug deal, okay?
Yeah.
The drug deal with the Scarecrow and everything. And he goes right to town and knocks out like 4 guys in a row, like thump, 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 thump. Like, we haven't seen anything like that in Daredevil. It's like everybody is doing like roundhouse kicks and doing all kinds of crazy backflips and stuff. I don't know, man. It is weird that everybody that he comes up across seems to be like Shang-Chi. I don't get it.
Well, I mean, I just think that it's more entertaining when people can fight, you know? I mean, when you have a fight scene, it's entertaining, right?
Oh, hey,
we don't question
have him go up against the assassins.
We don't question when Avengers go up against Hydra agents, right?
We did, but Brome Bridger's loving the fiddle faddle. We got to bring back the fiddle faddle for the Brome Bridger.
That's right. Hey, if
we are ready.
Are we doing this Tuesday, Dan? Are we doing this Tuesday with him? I forget.
I think so. I think so. We'll bring back the fiddle faddle.
Wherever we're doing it, we're going to bring the fiddle faddle back.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you guys get hung up on are kind of petty to me, and things that just really don't matter. You know, I understand you have criticism that's legitimate. If you have criticism that's actually legitimate, it would be one thing, but we're getting hung up about a teenager making dumb decisions.
Yeah.
We're getting hung up about bank robbers that work for Kingpin having fighting skills. I mean,
at the sake of Tim getting mad because of being repetitive. Okay. If you want to talk legitimate, episode 1 through 4 was legitimately boring as watching paint dry. It was watching grass grow. I mean, I was giving it all the credit in the world because the performances were strong and it was setting something up. I had to sit through Fiddle Faddle Man give me a speech about how every human on the planet deserves to have fiddle faddle. Okay. Those were stupid, lame, dumb episodes because now I know they weren't building up to shit. Okay. Episode 5 was a fun, self-contained story, and episode 6, the main villain that they've been teasing for a while got taken down in the space of 10 minutes in the episode. And I had a girl.
You want a 30-minute fight?
What?
Did you want to
found it? He could have spent the 4 episodes that we spent staring at paint drying, trying to find Muse.
It's a drama.
Kingpin could have been building his task force. Things could have been happening.
I think that the point that Dan's getting at is it was a drama with no drama, and that's kind of the point. The biggest problem.
I think that it's
look. We're responding to comments about this specific episode, but if you want me to make broad criticisms about the show, I can make more broad criticisms that are probably more valid in your eyes. I think that the plot is too busy. I think that they've had way too many villains. I think that it was clearly pieced together poorly after they completely tore it down, and I think that they don't know what they're going to do with a lot of the stuff that they inserted late. I think those are all very valid. I think they're all very broad. And they're not. We're responding to things that are talking about the specific episode, but in the broad sense, I think it's very clear this show is just not up to par.
It's a very valid and standard criticism that characters in a show don't do anything out of actual character human motivation, but because the plot demands that they do it, the plot doesn't work. if they behave like actual rational human beings. If you created a plot that requires your characters to behave in ways that no human being would ever behave for the plot to work, then your plot sucks. And lots of plots are that way. I know that writers do this all the time, but it is a valid criticism that is often leveled at all forms of entertainment, that you've created a plot that only works if the characters behave in ways that make no sense and people wouldn't do. And you can grant grace to people doing that if the end result is something that is very entertaining and over the top. This is mildly entertaining and not enough to excuse nonsense. Like, you know, and again,
according to you guys, I mean, everybody's got an opinion, and I don't know what this show is on Rotten Tomatoes right now. I have to look that up later once you guys cut me off again. But I think that overall, you know, me personally, I think that it's definitely disappointing compared to the first 3 seasons, but it's not as stupid. It's not a stupid thing to imagine. I know that we're getting repetitive, but the 13-year-old thing, and you know, I just don't have as many issues as you guys do overall, but it's definitely, I mean, I agree with you on some points, but it's not, I will say awful. It's not awful.
I mean, it's certified fresh right now. It's certified fresh right now, and I understand why. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and say that a lot of people won't enjoy watching some of these episodes and some of these character development and some of that. Some people enjoy it, okay? And that's their prerogative. I will just tell you that me personally, I was kind of hoping for something a little more linear and a little better planned than this. That's just all.
Yeah.
So
anyway. I'll say that this is I'm really going at it because I really didn't like episode 6. Even with episode 6, this is like a C- show, maybe like a solid C.
That's where I fall. I mean, I wouldn't say I hate it. You know what I mean? I would just say that I would just and
this is not Secret Invasion.
No, and
you know,
Dan and I are very yeah, it's in the 80s. I saw that.
Yeah.
Dan and I are very, very
Disney has a lot of money.
Yeah.
The audience score too is 80.
Dan and I are very honest about where we come from on this when it comes to the MCU. It's like we want it to be good, but we also don't want it to be good. You know what I mean? We want it to be good because we want to see the things from our childhood come to life. That's what comic book media is. Coming to life with what we've only seen on a page is just an amazing thing that we didn't get when we were kids. And so seeing it now would be awesome. But at the same time, the garbage that they've given us the last 3-4 years, it's really hard to want anything to be good because anything good is going to be wasted because that's going to be rebooted and burned sooner or later.
You guys have been burned. You guys have both been burned, and I get it. You know, I totally get it. I mean, phases 4 and 5 and a 6 if we're in 6 now. I don't know if we are or not, but
something is officially the end. I can't remember. They just said that I think Thunderbolts is officially the end of whatever phase we're in, I think, or something.
We're in 6. Are we in 6?
I don't know. I think 6.
A new one is starting soon. I think I just saw a new one is starting.
So this is 5. Okay.
This is still 5. Yeah. But I get that you guys are disappointed, and it's totally, what's the word I'm looking for? It's totally understandable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that you guys are being a little too harsh on Daredevil. It's maybe more like a B-, but it's
Jonathan.
It's definitely like a downgrade from seasons 1, 2, and 3. And but you know, some of these things that we're getting hung up on, I just think that we're really trying too hard to get aggravated about the MCU.
Do we need to bring up your initial rating track record? Do we need to do that?
I mean, you can't need to bring it up. I am traditionally very high on projects when they first come out. Yeah. But I think that, you know,
I will say this: we've been very harsh on it tonight.
I can't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, on a Rotten Tomatoes scale, right? Is it good or is it bad?
You need fiddle faddle, Jonathan.
Yeah,
that's the secret to getting your word
on the is it good or is it bad scale. I'm gonna say like a C. It's passing. I would say my review would be fresh, not rotten. I'm still
Same here.
disappointed because it should be so much better. And that's why I'm upset. Because
well, did you really expect it to be as good as there? I mean, we all hoped that it would be as good.
I didn't.
No,
I didn't.
But I didn't expect it to be that good. I mean, the fiddle faddle. I get a lot of you guys' complaints too. The fiddle faddle stuff. Like, why are we spending time on that? There is a lot of agenda in this, just like there is a lot of agenda in a lot of MCU stuff right now. But
exactly.
It's kind of like, I don't know. I think that overall it lacks in action, but I think that the drama and the story and the acting make up for a lot of the lack of actions in episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5, or 2, 3, and 4, because there was more action in 5 in the bank robbery, and then in 6 there was a little bit more action. But yeah, I do think that it's odd that my biggest criticism for the show is, why did we? I understand that it's called Born Again. We alluded to this earlier, but why are we going backwards just for a bit so they can go right back to where they were? Like, is it like a technique that they use in wrestling where, a superstar wrestler comes out and says, "Hey, I'm going to come out there and beat his butt," but he doesn't. He waits. And then finally, when they have that collision, I don't know. I don't understand why that decision was made.
We touched on this in an earlier week. Daredevil, I think we established he considers quitting second most, right? We did decide that Spider-Man thinks about quitting being Spider-Man slightly more often than Matt thinks about quitting being Daredevil. It's like it's a trope in the wheelhouse of these characters that they're constantly deciding that they're not going to do this anymore, throwing their costume away and being like, this is bad and I'm not doing any good and I'm not going to do it anymore. So it's like both of these characters is kind of a well-established trope that they get fed up with being a superhero and quit periodically. It's just something that they do. It's baked in.
I think they should have let him go fully back to Daredevil already. Like, it's really dragged on a lot.
Yeah, like 2 episodes, maybe 3 is enough. Like
maybe 4, but my gosh, we're at episode 6, and he's finally
at the end
to the point.
Yeah, halfway through episode 6, he's like, you know what?
And I'll say this, okay? I'll say that it's not a bad project. I guess my biggest thing with the MCU right now is I'm tired of saying, "Oh, well, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible." That's kind of where we've lived for like 5 years. And I'm ready to be done with that. I'm ready to move on and actually have something that just blows me away, because it didn't take much. Okay. It didn't take much in the first few phases during the Infinity Saga to blow me away. Just give me something original. Give me an actual linear and directional story with an actual purpose that's easy to follow, and give me the mind-blowing special effects, fight sequences, and budget that I expect. And all of a sudden, my vision is brought to life, and it's something outstanding. And that's exactly what I want from the MCU, and they haven't given that to me in years. That's why when I see stuff like this, sometimes I do focus on the negative. The reason I do, those are the little things that don't matter as long as you nail the big things. And they haven't nailed the big things in a long time.
You guys care too much. That's your problem. You care too much.
Well, again, give me something self-contained that makes sense.
Hey, man.
Fun, and I'm totally happy. Again, again,
I agree.
5. I'd watch 8 episode 5s and be like,
Jonathan, I want you to write my wife, and I want you to tell her that I care too much. Okay.
Yeah.
So just
I'll agree with you to an extent. Like, we've only gotten 3 good films since the beginning of Phase 4. No Way Home, Doctor Strange 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine. And like you guys often argue, which I don't know that I fully agree with because it is the multiverse, but you guys always argue that it didn't really matter because it was a whole different thing. But I think that everything ultimately ties together when it comes to the multiverse. Tim doesn't like the multiverse, and I get that too, but it's what they're doing. And, hey, we got the cast announcements recently, and it's going to be wild.
We don't even want to get into that. I am okay with multiversal stories in small doses, but man, it's just so much of it. Like we are wallered in it now. We've gotten, and we're bringing back these X-Men. These X-Men have already had a multi-timeline, multiverse type stories with Days of Future Past. So we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, this is what tells me.
We've done 2
This
seasons.
is how you know it's not going to matter, and that's the worst part. You know, they're introducing 85-year-old Ian McKellen and 85-year-old Patrick Stewart. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, this is how you know that it's not going to matter, which is why I don't know that I should even get excited about it. You know what I mean?
Boss.
It's like
same as the old boss.
Yeah.
Why is it not going to matter? That's my question to you.
Because it's multiversal. These aren't this clearly is not going to be
Deaths don't matter
in the Magneto of the MCU. So why it's just like when Wolverine was not going to be Hugh Jackman in the MCU, but they introduced him that way just to get ticket sales, just to get people excited. I get all that, and it worked. Okay, and it's going to work in Doomsday as well. People are going to buy the tickets just to go see it.
Right.
But
anyway,
it's not going to matter.
Let's get off of Marvel's garbage future and their stupid Avengers movies that are going to suck. And we'll get back on Daredevil, which is at least not suck. It's at least we're mad that it's not an A, and like I'm passionately trying to defend its mediocrity. I want you to know how horribly mediocre it is. That's why I'm getting upset right now.
Well, you're leading me to believe that you hate it, Dan.
Yeah, well, see, I'm just trying to get you to accept that it's very mediocre and it's not that good.
Well, I'll agree with you that it's mediocre, but to me, mediocre doesn't mean terrible. Mediocre just means less than satisfactory.
Well, again, like I said, if you rotten or fresh, I'm going to say it's fresh. It definitely is. What's coming? Those Avenger movies are going to be rotten. I'm going to sit through them. I'm going to suffer through them. I'm going to want to throw things at the screen. I might throw things at the screen.
You don't mean that. You don't mean that.
Yeah, but this is at least mediocre. It seems so pieced together. The original story blended with all of the late ads is making for something that isn't easy to watch without the weekly recaps. I'd be lost. There are a lot of plot threads going on, and I don't know that they're all going to tie together. Mm-hmm. We kind of lost.
I don't know that it all can be wrapped up in the next, what do we have? 2 more episodes? I don't know that we can wrap it all up in then. So.
It's only 2.
Yeah, or 3. I'm sorry, we got 3. We got 9, right? We got 9. So yeah, so 3 more.
Yeah, it's a lot, but we have a second season because they've shot enough. I don't think they have to shoot a lot more to do the second season. So we might be left with a lot of dangling plot threads that get tied up next season, because we don't have a lot of space. We're on to the Reacher. Let's see if any of these other
things. Hey, if we're doing Reacher, I gotta go, guys, because I haven't.
Jonathan, I just want you to know that I can show you the text where Dan sent me the text before we did this whole thing, saying, "Hey, let's let them talk." Okay, he sent me he sent me a text and specifically said we need to let them talk.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Defend stupidity, but hey, everybody's stupid,
Hey, I'm just really glad that tonight I got to make Dan really upset. It'll make me go to bed with a smile on my face.
Yeah,
Jonathan, we love you, man. We love you so much.
We love you guys. Bright shining ray of positivity in the darkest of night.
I definitely lean positive. I'm definitely a glass half full kind of guy. Sometimes, I might get a little defensive because it's almost like you're talking about my kids, Dan. And Daredevil seasons 1, 2, and 3 are my kids.
Yeah.
And hey, don't you talk about my kids.
Hey, no, my kids were dumb sometimes. They were never as dumb as the character in this show. But when they were dumb,
who at 13 went after so and so in the subway, and I know. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, when my kids were dumb, they knew they were dumb. And I would tell people, look at that fucking idiot over there.
Okay.
Dan's really going to get you guys canceled tonight.
I know, man. Yeah. Dan is doing everything to require us not to get pushed on YouTube. Talk about smothering his kids. And anyway, all right.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jonathan. Well, hey, we appreciate it, buddy. Peace out.
Good night.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you later.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I blame Jonathan. 100% I blame Jonathan. I wanted to have a fun conversation about how bad that last episode was. But because it was just so bad.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing with Adam and Kingpin fighting at the same time as Daredevil and Muse, and neither one of them really satisfying fight wise is something that I mean, you know, we could have got into that as well, but I'm just, I don't know. Ultimately, we've got 3 more episodes. Let's see how it ends up before we judge the series as a whole, but I'm not optimistic that I'm going to love it. I'll just say that. So
yeah, I think it's going to maintain this mediocre line.
Yeah.
That just seems to be where it is.
It's
What's
really
that?
funny. It doesn't matter who is in these shows. And I think that's, you know, a lot of people are going to get on us and say, oh, well, you don't talk about the white characters. The heck we don't, man. They're disappointing too. Okay. We talk about, you can watch me talk about Thor, Love and Thunder all day. And I can tell you 12 things that are wrong with it right now. So just, you know, we are equal opportunity abusers when it comes to this stuff. And, you know, there is no partiality here. We are absolutely fair across the board. If it is a bad project, we will tell you. So
yeah, you know, we do give things a wide berth. We waited a long time to tell you that Rings of Power season 2 was bad. You know, we were saying it was good.
We waited until it was bad. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what else to tell you. We waited.
And you know what? We waited until Daredevil Born Again. I did until I thought it was bad. I thought it was boring, and finally on episode 6, I thought it was bad. That was the line it crossed. But we have other things to talk about tonight, folks. And today we had a banger of an episode drop. I will say I was not here last week, and I did not enter this episode very hopeful, because when things are bad, we'll tell you we're bad. And the last episode of Reacher was bad. Episode 7, not this week's episode, not today's episode, last week's episode. Episode 7 was bad. No excuses given. It was a lot of moving chess pieces on the board. You know, we had to get this person here. And again, not all of it made sense. The characters were doing things because the plot said that they had to do them. And the things that they had to do to get there were excruciatingly dumb and made no sense. But I'm willing to give those slack because it paid off in a big way this week. Again, if you're going to make characters to do dumb things to make your plot work, yes, your plot is not good, but you better deliver something great. You know, it better line up something fantastic. And let's see, we got our first comments in here about Reacher. Jon Snow knows nothing. The Reacher finale did not disappoint. What were your takeaways watching this week's Reacher?
I will slightly disagree. I was somewhat disappointed. We did get a few things that were really cool. I thought that the long drawn out poly fight was something that was pretty cool. There are several instances throughout the course of the episode where reality just kind of is checked at the door. And that's something that I kind of don't, I don't know if that's something that is true to the book or not, but a lot of the things, you know, like for instance, I'll just give you a for instance, right? Yeah. I am not a weapons expert. I know nothing about what affects a weapon and what does not, but it seems like taking a bullet out of the belt and putting it in the one end of the barrel should not make it backfire like that. So I don't know, like I don't know exactly what happens, and I definitely would not be confident enough to stand in front of it after I did that. I don't know, you know, we're talking about a 50 cal gun here, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's one of those things that, look, I get it. Reacher's like a weapons expert and he knows how to do that stuff, I guess, and he knows the kind. Okay, but in the realm of reality, there's just something in my brain that said, but bullets are meant to go through the barrel. So how can it clog the barrel? I don't know. There's a lot that I don't understand about right there. But
well, if you turn it, I think what he did, he turned it backwards. So the is jammed in the barrel. So it's not going to fit. So now the barrel is jammed. And so if your barrel is jammed, the gun will backfire, you know, so that.
See.
And the other thing that Reacher's a bit of a nihilist. So at that point, like, it's not like his plan was to purposely let Paulie get the drop on him, but Reacher's the kind of guy that's like, he has the thoughts in his head in the book all the time. Well, if this is the end, this is the end. And he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
It's not like he wants to die, but if it's time, he's not going to get all bent out of shape about it. That's
sure.
kind of it.
And there was a lot of stuff like that. It's just like, he clearly, he crushed Paulie's larynx underwater. That was another thing that then Paulie apparently lived through. And I there's just a lot of stuff that was just out there that was just like in the realm of reality. I'm not sure how it would happen, but it is what it is. So
the big thing that got me as unreal, and again, the action was so over the top. There was so much great fighting and stuff going on. I will say that none of this went down this way in the book. It's all changed around. The big final confrontations, there was nobody on the compound with Reacher except Reacher was just Reacher. The Duffy wasn't there, Villanueva wasn't there, Neagley wasn't even in that book. So you could just imagine that none of it went down even close to this way in the book.
For sure.
I was getting new stuff and I was enjoying it. The real thing that really killed me is the ambush at the beginning of the episode, right?
Yeah.
It all goes down, and somehow magically the only survivors are Reacher and Reacher's two DEA buddies. Not a single member of the ATF team survives. Not one.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, the ambush thing is kind of one of those things that was really odd. It's like somebody was not doing their job, okay? Yeah. Because when you case for what you think is an ambush, and there's somebody behind your ambush, and you're behind their ambush, you would think that you would see their ambush, but you didn't see their ambush, and so once again, we just had this discussion about Daredevil.
There's another perimeter beyond the perimeter.
I don't understand how it would have happened without anybody seeing each other and knowing what they were up to. It didn't make any sense. So
that was all there to have an additional action sequence.
That's all it was. It was all a machine gun fight and a bunch more dead bodies, and so it didn't make any sense.
If they would have let at least like one ATF agent also survive. You know what I'm saying? Because the fact that Duffy, Villanueva, and Reacher are the only good guys that made it is just kind of like, okay, wait, like none of these three got hit, but all of and they were in helmets and body armor,
Yeah.
And they all got taken out, but whatever, it was fun. Got to be kind of dumb fun for a little bit there. I know it's a big house, but could nobody at the party hear anything that's going on? A 50 cal gun went off like less than 100 yards from the party. Yeah.
So well, and Villanueva was up struggling with the dude in the bathroom right upstairs, right? You would think that somebody would be like, "Hey, what's going on up there?" You know what I mean? Like
they slammed the door.
They slammed the door. Yeah, I mean,
threw him through the glass shower door.
Yeah, all that stuff.
The glass, the tank lid busting over his head. That's all pretty loud. And
I mean,
I will say this is one thing that I said to my wife. That outlet was not the code in that bathroom because all outlets in a bathroom need to be GFI protected outlets. And so when you throw that clipper into
the fuse, the fuse would have blown.
It would have just popped right there. They're the outlets with the buttons, people. If you get water in it,
they
just
exactly
pop, and nothing happens. That's the idea.
Yeah.
So that was, but hey, when you live the living spectacle, Reacher versus Polly lived up to the hype. So we kind of got into that. I thought it was a pretty good fight. I liked it. It went into the Freddy versus Jason level of spectacle.
I also like don't get me wrong, like I love when you've got a guy that is like unspeakably enormous, and you have a guy like Reacher that's doing his best, but it doesn't matter how hard you hit him, he doesn't feel it. I get that there's characters like that just add a certain level of intrigue, it also, in my mind, kind of deducts from reality a little bit. You know what I mean? It deducts. These people are very human. They're not superhuman. Okay. And so, yes, they're very large, but they are very fragile, just like us. Okay. They've got a big skull, but it's not any less fragile than yours or mine. Right. They've got, so it just kind of depends on, as much as I love the fact that there's somebody like that that can really challenge Reacher, it also just kind of pulls back on reality a little bit and makes it so that we're fighting someone that's superhuman instead of someone that is just skilled and big. So
yeah, but I enjoyed the fight. It was over the top, but it was fun. I enjoyed the Reacher having to get hung by the chain and figure out how to get out of that. I did like they cut away when he was pushing on that beam. I was like, man, that's a long way down. When he breaks that thing, he's gonna hit the ground hard, because
yeah.
But we didn't see how it ended. It pulled that off.
It's also kind of funny that they planned this big ambush and nobody planned on having silencers on their guns. You know what I mean? I thought that was really interesting. It's like they planned this big ambush. They want to be sneaky. You clearly want to be sneaky in an ambush, but nobody's got a silencer on their gun. And so that was kind of the reason he couldn't just shoot Paulie, because he had his gun. You know what I mean? He tried to strangle him initially because he wanted to be quiet. Well, if he'd have had a silencer gun, he just, boom, Paulie wouldn't have even known he was there, So I don't know. The whole thing was just, once again, adding levels of idiocy, but it's okay.
But now there is one thing that silencers in real life, but of course they wouldn't have heard it because they don't hear the 50 cal backfiring. Because
exactly
in real life,
exactly.
Yeah, silencers are not as effective as they are in spy movies. They don't go, pew, pew, they actually are loud. They're just slightly less.
They're
loud.
Just slightly less loud. Yeah.
Yeah, not completely. Just a little bit less. I'm not a big fan of Reacher. It missed the mark for me. Just so many inconsistencies. I mean, you got to give these things a grain of salt.
I mean, what I signed up for was action, and it had action. I mean, I can complain about some of the stuff, but ultimately, it gave me what I signed up for.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of inconsistencies. There were more inconsistencies in the series than in this book, or more things that just didn't make sense. But it did add up to having a much bigger action spectacle in this last episode. Having everybody involved, having this huge gunfight, just add it to the spectacle out of it all. Does it make sense that Duffy and Villanueva went to the ATF and didn't just get immediately arrested for what they had done?
No, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah, but if they didn't,
does it make sense that they were allowed to be on the premises? No, not at all.
No.
It doesn't make any sense they were allowed to be on the premises, and
that Reacher was allowed to be there at all. Period. Does that make any? No. But in the book, does that happen? No, it doesn't go down that way. It makes more sense, but you don't have the huge ambush on an ambush firefight, so you got to do some silly things to get your double ambush set up. I will say also in the books, usually what happens at the end of a book, Reacher being a hobo, he doesn't hang around to have little touching conversations with every character in the book. At the end, the action ends and Reacher walks away before the authorities show up, so that many times they never even know that Reacher was there, and if they do know he was there, they're not going to find him because he's a hobo. He has no address. He uses no credit cards. He pays cash everywhere, and you never know where he's going to be. He's not worth trying to find. So, did it make sense that after this was all over, Reacher hung around and didn't get arrested? Not really. But, hey, whatever. Beck having his redeeming moment was a very good thing for his character. He gets no redeeming moment in the book.
Dan. So. It just hit me.
What?
It just hit me why they didn't hear anything. Because this was Anthony Michael Hall's birthday party and they couldn't hear the ruckus. Okay? No. That's why they could not hear the ruckus. All right? Maybe someone could describe the ruckus. I don't know. But anyway, So that's what it was. That was the problem this whole time. But no, Beck as a character having the redeeming arc and saving his son, that was great. That was a great moment in the show.
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job the entire series. I think Anthony Michael Hall needs to get more work. He did a great job. So,
and I like it. Really highlights the brutality. And again, this didn't go down the way in the book, but Reacher has a certain tone of, if not realism, brutality, where like a character can have that redeeming moment and then just they get killed. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean they get to make it and have a happy ending. That the happy ending was that he stood up for his son. That's as happy as this happy ending gets to be. You know, he still gets killed, but he gets a redeeming moment before he does. So Reacher can just walk out the door with a $50,000 bike, and Reacher could just walk out the door with a duffel bag full of cash, and nobody stops him. Again,
not in reality.
Yeah, no. They couldn't walk anywhere. Again, Reacher should have left. You know, you need to get arrested for everything that just happened. And that's why in the book, he leaves before the authorities ever arrive. He doesn't hang around for that stuff. You know, by the time ambulances and cops and all those people arrive, Reacher is in the wind in the book.
He's gone.
Yeah. But you don't get to have your little touching, epilogues when he does it that way. So I understand why the show did it. As disappointing as the Reacher versus Paulie fight was, I hate it that there was nothing between Reacher and Quinn. He had the moment of realization of who he was before Reacher shot him. So
I mean, it would have been nice for him to realize who Reacher was sooner and then have kind of a tussle or a moment, but there really was none of that. I think it's because they spent so much time on the Paulie fight. They just didn't have time for any of that really. And Quinn kind of had his moment with Beck. So I think that was kind of more what that was. So,
and the casting wise, Quinn was never going to have a large physical confrontation with Reacher in the show. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to have a big fight. That would just it would be like the Reacher Paulie fight in reverse, where now Reacher is Paulie. So you know. And the other thing is, in the book, there is more of a confrontation with Quinn, but it's more of a psychological confrontation with a lot of talking and a lot of thought, inside somebody's head and what they're thinking. And so that the confrontation they had in the book wouldn't have translated to the show very well. So I don't know how they could have worked out a better confrontation for them. At least I will say, they were laying on quite a bit of foreshadowing, and I think maybe they had this idea and decided they needed to abandon it. In episode 7, Reacher says to Neagley, I cared about Cole. Her name was Cole, right? I cared about Cole the same way I care about you now, when she says, I'm sorry about what happened to her. And then we end the episode with Neagley on her way alone to where Quinn is. So when that episode wrapped up, I'm like, Frances Neagley is not a damsel in distress that Reacher has to come save. If they go that way, that's going to be garbage. And I feel like they set it up for you to think that was going to happen, but it didn't happen. And kudos to them for not doing that, because that would be a really poor use of that character. Duffy and Villanueva didn't go to jail. Like how?
He just retired. He said, "You know what? I'm going to retire. I'm going to go to the beach now. You know what I mean? I'm going to go bring my wife some flowers, and life is going to be good." So, I mean,
Duffy at least gets fired. I don't think Villanueva would have.
She got fired, but
I
mean, how many people are dead because of her? Me and Bonebridger got into this last week. How many people are dead because of her? It's a large number. Like all of those ATF agents that we just saw, right? They're all dead because of her. Elliot is dead because of her, right? All the people that have been killed, in pursuit of this whole thing. And so you just got to ask yourself, like, at what point At what point would somebody actually have been held accountable for this stuff? It's like, I have a feeling when they would have gone to the ATF, it would have been like, okay, hands behind your back. I mean,
it's approaching Jason Voorhees level. I think the body count, it's getting pretty high.
It was ridiculous, man. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So I'm very much, and she had to kill people in order to keep the cover from being blown, which isn't what cops do. You know what I mean? And so I feel like this is just one of those situations like you gotta.
It's what Reacher does, but Reacher's not a cop, guys. He's a hobo.
Exactly.
I will say this season, the biggest standout problem with the season to me was Duffy. In the books, I would say that Duffy is probably the least competent, least impressive love interest that Reacher is given, because most of his love interests are as hyper competent as he is. He's only attracted to people that are also like very, very good at what they do, because you can kind of tell that's like how Reacher is. And he talks a lot this season about how Duffy is good at what she does, but there's no evidence of her being good at anything. Like, she really screws the pooch for the whole season, and the Duffy in the show is even less competent than the Duffy in the book. She is worse and does worse and makes bigger mistakes. But I think they had to twist it some to get her into more of the action scenes, because Duffy in the book is not involved in any of these altercations. It's all just Reacher by himself. And, I don't know. Maybe they wanted to have more of a group aspect to this action. But yeah, Duffy getting to shoot the guy in the junk, RoboCop style, was super badass. That was a good scene. That was a good Duffy's. Scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good scene. I did enjoy that scene. So yeah, that was a good one.
Okay, this show started with lots of promise. Now it's just the Expendables, the series. But see, I like the Expendables. I like big dumb action.
I don't really care for the Expendables, but look, man, this is what I signed up for. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I expected this to be anything but guns and explosions and fights. That's what it is. And are there some inconsistencies in the story? Yes, but I do think that it's that way everywhere. There's, no matter how good a story is, I can find things to complain about. But ultimately it's what I expected, so.
Yeah. Let's see. Jessica, I was convinced the Clipper was going to meet someone's eyeball. I was pleased it was just electrocution. That's Miss Nerd Champ. That's my wife, who I will let you know, if the Clipper did do anything to anyone, she would not have known, because she spent this whole episode, almost the whole episode, staring directly at me. She cannot watch any of the fight scenes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The gore of like gunshots and stuff like that is not a problem. But anytime a limb is broken, the snapping, the arms, the legs, the ankles, she can't handle it. She can't watch it. She was like, why do people like these parts? I'm like, these parts are the whole point of this show. Like, you put up with the rest of this show so that you can watch him break this guy's leg. That's why you watch the show, babe. She's like, no, I don't like these parts. So yeah, I have to explain. I have to urge. No, that part is over. That part is over. You could turn around now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, his leg is still broken, but they've panned back. The break happened. You heard the snap. It's he's still screaming, but but no, I don't know. This season, I like 2 better. I think a lot of people like 3 better. My favorite season is still 1.
Yes.
My favorite season, I would say the order that they were released in is the order that I would rank them right now, 1, 2, and 3. But I get why some people might like certain stories better. I would kind of like to have them kind of take just a bit of a step back from trying to make it so broad every single season and including like Neagley every season and those kind of things, because there are rumors, and I just read that she's getting her own spin-off series, which I think would be great. You know what I mean?
Watch that show all day.
I would watch that show all day, and I think that would be great. But yeah, I don't think that we need to include Niggly. Like in season 1, she didn't really seem to fit, and in season 2, she did because of her being in the 110, and the 110 being essentially all the main characters. But in this season, it felt like kind of a little forced thing. She was kind of the person in the chair until the guys came to assassinate her. But I really feel like each season they've kind of tried to work her in, and I think they kind of maybe need to pull back on that a little bit and kind of give a little space. Give a little space, let her have her own spin-off for a little bit, and then bring her back in like 2 seasons in a cameo instead. You know what I mean? Like they tried that in season 2. Remember, they tried that with the guy that was like the
Margrave,
the marshal guy or whatever his name was, right? And that
was fun.
That was fun, but it was also unnecessary. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. And so I kind of wish that if they're going to do each one, because the reason that I don't like that is I don't like adding layers of possible chronology to these seasons. Yeah. I like each one kind of being, I don't know when it happened.
Encapsulated.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of what I liked about it. So that's what I loved about Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? We know what the chronology is, but you wouldn't know if somebody didn't tell you, Yeah. So I just that's kind of the way that I would prefer it. But ultimately, yeah, those are the ways I would rank them: season 1, season 2, season 3. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Neagley is only of the books they've adapted, the only book that she was actually in is the book that season 2 was based on. She wasn't in the book for season 1 or the book for season 3. And she wasn't introduced until like the 4th or 5th book, and she's not in every book after that. She's in every like 4th or 5th book. She makes a small appearance, so she's not.
Yeah, I do feel like they're trying to establish chronology with the seasons, which is something I'm not really a fan of. But it is what it is. I mean, is it the worst atrocity ever? No, it's not. I mean, I can live with it, but it's just something I don't prefer.
I would like to see next season return to a higher level of ultra violence that we had in the first season, just like over the top, gruesome violence like we had in the first season. Because I feel like they've dialed it back a little bit.
And I was talking to Bone Bridger about that. I mean, do you remember that my wife, this is the 2 minutes of the show that she has ever watched with me. Okay.
Yeah.
She walked into the room while I was watching, and she's like, "Oh, what's this show about?" And I was just like, "Oh, it's kind of like a spy thing, And it was the bathroom fight in jail in season 1. Okay. Yeah. Talk about ultra violence, right? I mean, that's like, and we have not had anything on that level. Now on that level, we have not had anything in 2 seasons. So I feel like we need to get to that, because that's the kind of thing that this series was that's the foundation that it was built on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we need to have the remember that there was that naked dude that was nailed to the ceiling or the wall, or I mean, and we don't need that, but I mean, what made some of these shows that we love so popular is the fact that there was gratuitous, realistic violence that really brought stakes. That's what made Game of Thrones so captivating, is not only was somebody going to die every episode, but somebody was going to die in devastating, gruesome fashion every episode. And that's kind of what we had in season 1, and we haven't really had it since then. So
stakes wise, we've talked about this almost every week with Cole. If they went the full gruesomeness that they did with that guy nailed to the wall with her, that would have went a long way towards establishing how bad Quinn was. But they definitely, I mean, and we even saw her again a flashback in this episode, and we saw more of her than we did in the previous episode. We saw her face after she was dead, the whole like her front upper torso, and it was all relatively unmolested. And you're like, okay, I know he killed her, but like the dialogue is leading to me believe horrors were perpetrated. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
where is the horror?
And honestly, I've seen a lot worse in the last 2 seasons. You know, that's kind of, you know, so that's what makes those things so great. When you have that kind of stuff, it really raises the stakes of the series. And when the stakes are raised, intrigue raises. And that's what makes things so captivating. And I'd like to get to that. I think that's part of the reason this season wasn't that way, as it was dialed back a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, season 3's wrapped up. Me and you both preferred 2, and we preferred 1 to 2. So 3 is at the bottom of our reacher barrel, but I feel like, I mean, I still would rate it as good. I like it.
It's very good. Yeah, it's good.
So this is the tagline of the night. It's Reacher versus Daredevil Born Again. Is Reacher season 3 better than Daredevil Born Again so far?
I think so far it is. You know what I mean? I think so far it is. Not to be fair, we've got the full picture of the story. But I think an adapted work is always going to do better than an original work anyways. And I think that's kind of, even though we've got adapted characters in Daredevil, that story is not anything that's directly adapted. And that is our problem. That's our problem. Is it seems like you're making it up as you go along versus having an outline that you can kind of follow step by step. And that's kind of why I think maybe it's struggling a little bit more. But the plot to Reacher definitely seemed a lot more linear, a lot easier to follow. And I would say that it, as of right now maybe when Daredevil wraps up, I'll feel differently. But as of right now, I would say Reacher is better.
Yeah, I would definitely rate Reacher ahead. And for reference, I would say that none of the episodes of Reacher would be better than the best season of the Netflix Daredevil. No. But the worst season of Reacher so far is still better than what we're getting so far in this Daredevil. Maybe this Daredevil turns it around.
Yeah.
There's irons in the fire, but I don't know. Hopefully, there's still some of you out there. Me and Tim will be back here again next Thursday to talk about something. Reacher has all wrapped up, so we haven't even talked about what the next topic will be. And we're going to continue to cover Daredevil. We may be back on Bonebridger's channel as soon as
Tuesday.
The episode ends on Tuesday. We need to get with Bonebridger on that. We may be doing Daredevil here on Thursday. We may have a mystery topic. We may just come and review various flavors of Fiddle Faddle next Thursday. That may be the whole thrust of everything. But until then, folks, we will see you next week. Like, share, subscribe. Find Jonathan on Comic Book Cinema.